Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Actually, it's not my first time to be involved in like a program of Joy Nostalg, at least for the Joy Nostalg Foundation. No? I've been to one of your communities, socialized housing communities in Cavite, if I'm not mistaken, and gave a youth formation to your mga parishioners po doon, sa mga bata, no, mga young people on Catholic social teachings. So I would like to first and foremost express my gratitude for this opportunity to engage with you this morning and to learn together, no, and to reflect together in this Ignatian principle or value we call as men and women for others. And hopefully as we go about our discussion and reflection of this principle, we will be led to examine our ways and methods in Joy Nostalg, and most especially to affirm the best practices, the graces, and the exhibitions of being persons for and with others in your company, and hopefully be inspired to explore more areas in which we can be persons for and with others. So perhaps I would like to begin muna with a quick survey. Just a show of hands, I'd like to know how many of you have heard the phrase man or men and women for others. Show of hands who are familiar or have heard about this particular phrase. Okay, medyo may konti, all right? So don't worry, no, we will not have an exam after this. I'm a teacher, but I will not give a quiz. Okay, let us begin muna with the origin of the phrase men and women for others. Actually, the phrase men for others. The phrase men for others is a phrase coined by this priest, Jesuit priest. His name is Father Pedro Arrupe. And he gave a speech to alumni, no? Students, former students of Jesuit institutions and Jesuit schools in 1973. Therefore, this particular phrase, men for others, is 52 years old na po siya. Actually, 2 years ago, 2023, we celebrated the 50th year, no, of the speech of Father Pedro Arrupe, Men for Others. However, it's framed now, it's being expanded to include women, because before kasi, the alumni, most of the alumni who heard about or heard his speech were actually men. So that's why it's entitled Men for Others. But many efforts now are being done in order to expand this phrase, Men for Others, to include women, no? To emphasize the role of women in the work for justice and service for others, no? Most especially for the poor and the marginalized. And furthermore, it has evolved even to persons for and with others, to emphasize more inclusivity and solidarity with all, regardless of gender, thus the word persons, and to emphasize collaboration and mutual accompaniment, thus the word, adding the word with, not to emphasize about mutuality and journeying together. His speech basically emphasized this: a faith that does justice. This is another phrase created, no, amongst Jesuit institutions. Isa to sa mga paboritong phrase namin na tinuturo sa mga estudyante. I teach theology, particularly theology of the Catholic social vision. And we always emphasize in our classes that we are doing a faith that does justice. What does it emphasize, no? It stresses that the church now is becoming more aware that our actions for justice and our work for liberation from all oppressive structures and our participation in social transformation is part and parcel of our faith, no? Actually, ang word dyan is constitutive. It means it's not an option. It's not even secondary to the preaching of the gospel. It is a requirement. Therefore, in other words, the church cannot authentically preach the gospel without also working for justice. So it is an important element, and it cannot be absent from such. And this particular phrase is rooted in our sources of faith in the Catholic tradition. First would be the sacred scriptures, basically. So what is justice in the Bible? And we have actually a lot of biblical passages to support the work for justice, no? And I would like to just highlight on one from the prophetic tradition. That is from the words of the prophet Micah, chapter 6, verse 8. You have been told what is good and what the Lord requires of you, to do justice, to love goodness, and to walk humbly with your God. This particular passage basically emphasizes the need to be just, to express or to exhibit righteousness, and also to couple it with love and with humility. Therefore, justice does not only include fairness, but at the same time, it asks of us to be humble, to couple it with love, not to be self-seeking, but really to seek for the good of others. And in the New Testament, we have a lot as well. It's laden with a lot of justice mandates, commandments. And in fact, when Jesus started his public ministry, he started it with reading from the text, of a scroll from the prophet Isaiah. And he said this, he read this from the scroll: "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring glad tidings to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free." Justice, therefore, is central, to the ministry of Christ. And as his followers, justice should also be central to our ministry, to our way of life. It's about liberation, breaking the chains, healing wounds, and restoring dignity. It is the justice that is both spiritual. We're always talking about spiritual salvation, but at the same time, Jesus also particular with salvation with the temporal and the material. That's why with the biblical passage read a while ago, it speaks of feeding the poor and the hungry, of visiting the sick, of visiting those who are in prison, to liberate the captives from all the oppressive systems that they are caught up in. And again, to siguro balikan din yung binasa kanina, the Matthew 25, verses 34 to 40, sinasabi dito, at the end of everything, we will be judged by our way of loving. We will be judged by how we love. And particularly, Jesus presents a powerful vision of justice in the final judgment. "For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink," and so on and so forth. "Whatever you did for the least of my brothers and sisters, you are doing it for me." And this is very poetic because Christ, Jesus, is identifying himself with the least of our brothers and sisters. Nakikita natin si Kristo sa Aba at sa mga nasa laylayan. And so what we are doing for the least of our brothers and sisters, we're also doing it towards God, towards Jesus. And with scriptures, there also comes our Catholic social tradition, which is also very much founded on our biblical passages. I'd like to quote one social teaching, Justicia in Mundo, or Justice in the World. Sinasabi dito that our actions on behalf of justice and liberation from all oppressive situations and systems, and our work of doing social transformation, again, is a requirement of our faith. It is constitutive, hindi pwedeng mawala. The statement affirms that the work of justice is not separate from evangelization. It's what you call as witnessing, to walk our talk, to concretize what we are professing and what we are believing. Kung tunay man na minamahal natin yung Diyos, dapat nakikita sa galaw natin, sa pamumuhay natin, and most especially in our initiatives, no? In our effort to work for justice and service. So how does Father Pedro Arrupe define men and women for others? Sabi niya, simple lang. Men and women for others are people whose love of God is tied up to the love of neighbor. They cannot conceive the love of God without love of neighbor. It's always like a pair. It's always a couple. And they have this efficacious love. That means it has an effect. It gives grace. That has justice at its first requirement. One of the famous lines from the speech of Father Pedro Arrupe is this. Pwede nating basahin lahat. Ready? Love of God, which does not issue injustice for others, is a farce. Anong ibig sabihin ng farce? It's a pretense. It's hypocritical. It's a joke. Ibig sabihin, if we confess that we love God but we do not work, we do not love our neighbor, isang malaking kalokohan yan. No, it is a joke. It means that we are just pretending. It means that nagpapakitang tao lang tayo. This is actually a tall order, no? But it is a challenge for us to align our belief system, our love of God we proclaim, to our actions, to our way of becoming men and women for others as Joy Nostalg, as employees, as leaders, and as human persons in this world. So, ang tanong ngayon, paano ba? How do we practice being men and women for others? In fact, I would say this is more like an affirmation to what your company is actually already doing, no? And siguro, moving forward, how we can explore other means to practice being men and women for others. I've known of some of your programs because of the involvement I've had with the John J. Carroll Institute for Church and Social Issues. And I'm really parang moved by your efforts to reach out and to collaborate with marginalized communities, most especially in terms of socialized housing. And that's something very parang close to my heart because it's also something I am studying as a theologian, about home and displacement. So, sabi ko, when I was preparing this particular reflection, it's more like an affirmation really of what you're doing, to continue and to explore more areas. So, I'll give 2 invitations of being men and women for others. And every invitation has 3 tasks. Hopefully, we'll journey together. So, the first one is to listen and read the signs of the times. Pangalawang imbitasyon, personal conversion and social transformation. Let us begin with what does it mean to listen to the signs of the times. Okay, siguro it's good that we define first what are signs of the times. Father Pedro Arrupe in his speech really emphasized so much about discerning the signs of the times, sensitivity to the signs of the times. He's encouraging those who were listening in his speech to read the signs of the times, which includes questioning and discerning the actions of the Spirit in today's context, and thinking about God's will, how do we manifest or how do we collaborate in manifesting and exhibiting the will of God in our present conditions. To read the signs of the times is prayerfully understanding and being open to God's guidance, Saan tayo dinadala ng Diyos given our current context in the world. Most especially in the communities you are serving, in your workplaces, in your leadership roles, or whatever roles that you have, saan kayo dinadala ng Diyos. And that's also signs of the times. So what are signs of the times? Theologians would define it as important political, social, cultural, and economic developments, both positive and negative, which are known. And these signs of the times may be lights or shadows, may be positive or negative. In his first encyclical, Pope Francis was describing the world as very polarized, very extreme. He recognizes that there is extreme advances, or there is really great advancement in the world in terms of healthcare, education, and communications. But on the flip side, on the other side, there is also the shadows. There is intense suffering. There is poverty. There is so much exclusion, no? And disconnection amongst people. And people are not getting their basic necessities. So there is that contrast of experiences. And he further said, no, that there is a need to read the signs of the times, because if we don't attend to them, then they could be very debilitating and paralyzing to our world and society. Siguro, I'd like to invite you to pair up with anyone near you and discuss about this. This question. What do you think are the signs of the times which Joy Nostalg strives to listen and to understand? Ano yung mga events, happenings, or conditions na tinatry na i-address, no, na matignan ng Joy Nostalg? May it be in their business or in their community initiatives and programs. So I'll give you 2 minutes to just chat with your seatmate. Ano kaya yung mga signs of the times na iyon? Okay? Sige. Your 2 minutes starts now. What are the signs of the times that Joy Nostalg strives to listen and to understand? Alright? Sige. You just raise your hand. Anyone, any pair who has identified poverty as a sign of the times that Joy Nostalg is trying to address. Poverty like insecurity in terms of housing. Nakikita niyo ba yun? Can you raise your hand if you have identified poverty as a sign of the times addressed by Joy Nostalg? Yes, right? Just wage. Livelihood. Is it a sign of the times na tinatry na i-address ng Joy Nostalg? Yes, right? So again, sabi ko kanina, these are affirmations of your efforts, no? Of addressing difficult signs of the times. Again, signs of the times may not necessarily be always negative, but also positive, no? Positive efforts. And hopefully we'll be able to recognize that as we move forward into our journey of working with Joy Nostalg. Okay, sige. Let's proceed to the second task, which is the task of reading the signs of the times. Pope Francis is really very particular about the need to read and to scrutinize even the signs of the times. Because if we are not able to address and even notice that those are actually signs of the times, most especially the negative ones, the difficult ones, then those signs of the times have the tendency to dehumanize all the more many people in our society and in our communities. If we fail to address poverty, then we can, actually, nakakita na natin yan, no? Kung paano ka-dehumanizing yung pagiging isang mahirap or malugmok sa kahirapan, no? That they need to take food from garbage para masustain yung mga sarili nila. And that's very dehumanizing. And it can be very irreversible. That means if we don't address that right away, it will continue its cycle. And actually, it's very painful that poverty is really a cycle, it's generational. And it takes a lot of good people and good institutions to collaborate and to help those who are actually in that particular cycle. And thus the need to be attentive to these signs of the times. And we have to interpret them in the light of the gospel. Ano yung maka-Diyos na mga structures and practices na meron tayo at hindi maka-Diyos? Ano yung mga practices na naaayon sa sinasabi ni Kristo at ano yung mga hindi naaayon? Alright? Third is to cultivate and to nurture a culture of care and encounter. And I'd like to indulge you with some Filipino translations in nurturing this particular culture. Actually, when my question there is, who are the others, no? In the English language, or the translation for the word others in our Filipino language is much more, it's lovelier and it's deeper, no, yung translation niya. Others in our language is translated to kapwa. I don't know if you have come across this particular explanation of who kapwa is, no? But the English word others is quite limited. It's othering, no? It's setting ourselves aside, no? Setting the self separate from another. But pag sinasabi nating kapwa, if we break down the word kapwa, it's ka, which means together, with, and pwa means puwang, no? These are actually the people that we are sharing our space with. Kapwa, according to a Filipino psychologist, no, Virgilio Enriquez, kapwa is the unity of the self and the others. It's actually related to the African word Ubuntu. I am because we all are. It recognizes our shared identity, kapuwang. And perhaps we ask ourselves, who are the people we share space with in Joy Nostalg? Sino yung mga kapwa natin in our workplaces and in the communities that we serve? So who are the others? Those are the people we share space with. And culture of care. I'd like to indulge you with 3 translations of the word care. The first translation for care is malasakit, with the root word sakit, no, or pain. And to care means to feel the pain of the other. Ang pagmamalasakit is to see the pain and death and weep with those who are weeping and make their wounds as our own. That's the first invitation for us, to feel the pain. And of course, it's not an easy invitation. As much as possible, we want to get away with pain, no? Kaya may mga painkillers tayong mga ini-invent, no? But to really care is to feel the pain of the people that we are working with and also the people we are serving with. The second translation for care is pakialam. Diba? I don't care. Wala akong pakialam. Pakialam, what is the root word for pakialam? It's alam, knowledge, awareness. Therefore, a way to expand our loving is also to expand our knowledge of the other. Pagkilala. Makialam sa pinagdadaanan, huwag naman yung chismosa. Makialam, no, to be in solidarity with what people are actually going through, no, in their families, in the workplace, and especially with the marginalized communities that you're serving. Pakialam. The third invitation and the third translation for the word care is kalinga. We actually have kalinga centers here in Manila, no? Yung mag-house, they are housing homeless children and people on the streets. Kalinga is the word for sanctuary or home. And home, we usually connect it to right relationships. At maganda yung home, no, is also a place for kapahingahan, hinga. Nakakahinga ba tayo sa mundo natin ngayon? Or masyado na tayong hingal? Because our relationships are not very life-giving anymore. So third invitation is maging kalinga, no? Source of kalinga to people, to the kapwa. Sabi ni Pope Francis sa libro niyang To Dream or Let Us Dream, to act in a Samaritan way, is alluding to the Good Samaritan. To act in a Samaritan way in a crisis means letting myself be struck by what I see and what I experience, knowing that the suffering will basically change me. Pain will actually change us so much, no? And I think you have different experiences of pain, which really transformed you as a person. And in light of doing justice, no, if we see the pain and the hurt of poverty, it would really move us to create initiatives and movements, no, to address such poverty and suffering. I'd like to share this video about feeling particular emotions and allowing those emotions to compel us to move and to do something. Sige. Can we play the video? Okay. Ay, this is not the video. Sorry. That's not the right video. But I'll just have the prayer instead. So this is not the video supposed to be. But this is the prayer, the Franciscan blessing. May God bless you with a restless discomfort about easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that you may seek truth boldly and live deep within your heart. The prayer to ask for restless discomfort. Something is not right in this community. Something is not right with our relationship here in our workplace. Then we will be compelled and be moved to seek for truth and to live boldly. May I ask those who are there to read the second paragraph? Sige. The first two columns. May God bless you with holy anger at injustice, so that you may tirelessly work for justice, freedom, and peace among people. It's the prayer for holy anger, prophetic anger. Hindi tama to. Nakakagalit yung kahirapan. Then we have to work for something, no, for justice. Middlemost columns, can you read the third paragraph, please, loudly? May God tears to shed with those who suffer from pain, rejection, starvation, or the loss of all they cherish, so you may reach your hand to comfort them and transform their pain into joy. The gift of tears, of grieving. I remember one Jesuit priest, no, si Father Jim Keenan, is working on a book on moral theology, at sinasabi niya, we have actually stopped grieving for suffering. We have stopped grieving at wars. We have stopped grieving and weeping for poverty. We have stopped being affected by malnutrition, by corruption. We have stopped grieving. We have stopped feeling the pain, no, of suffering experienced by our kapwa. And I think it's good, no, to ask for that particular gift to grieve on those situations which are no longer aligned to God's will. The last two columns, please. Can you read paragraph, may God bless you. Ready? Loudly. May God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you can really make a difference in this world, so you're able, with God's grace, to do what others claim cannot be done. Sinasabi na imposible yung ma-address yung kahirapan. Imposibleng may hustisya sa mundo. But we are followers of Christ. We are fools for Christ, sabi nga ni St. Paul, no? And we believe, no, that it can actually be addressed. And you are actually doing that, no, as a company. There are many initiatives being done in order to make the impossible possible. To make possible a humanized, socialized housing for many Filipinos in the country. Because many are actually homeless. And many are hopeless na hindi na ma-address yung homelessness dito sa Pilipinas. But as a company, through your foundation, you are striving, no, to make it possible for many Filipino families. And not just to build homes and structures, but also to build good relationships within the communities. So again, affirmation to what you're already doing as a company. Okay. Okay pa tayo? You're still with me? Okay. Sinasabi ni Father John Sobrino, isang Jesuit priest ulit, in our world, there are not just wounded individuals, but crucified people. And therefore, to work for mercy, to show care, is actually to do all what we can with our resources, with our talents and capabilities to bring people down from the cross because they are greatly suffering. It's a huge task, but together, as a community, we could actually do it. People are being crucified because of poverty. People are crucified because of corruption and evil and greed. And therefore, we are encouraged to work together in order to address such, to bring people down from the cross. And lastly, for the first invitation, the culture of encounter. This is one of the favorite words of Pope Francis, culture of encounter. Hindi yung encuentro na nakikipagbarilan. But encounter is actually to encounter the other, to encounter our kapwa by stopping, looking at them in the eye, by communicating and engaging with them, and to try our best to address their needs. Sabi niya, it's not just about seeing, but also looking. Not just hearing, but listening. Not just passing by, giving money, but really stopping to ask how they are. Allowing ourselves to be moved with compassion and to draw near. Isa sa mga paborito din niya na phrase. To draw near, no, to people. So that is a culture of encounter. So that's for the first invitation. The second invitation is personal conversion and social transformation. May tatlong invitation din ako tukol dito. Hopefully you'll journey with me in terms of reflecting on this one. Una is to be aware of the dynamics and even the reality of sin. If we stop grieving about poverty and suffering, about evil in the world, sometimes we can be very indifferent also to the movements of sinfulness in the world. There is what you call as personal sin, which is exhibited not only with concrete actions, but it could also be corrupting our way of thinking, our customs, our attitudes, our way of speaking and engaging with our kapwa, with our peers, with our family members. It's subtle, actually. It could be hidden in our jokes. It could be hidden into our statements against another person. So it has its parang manifestation in our ways of thinking and imagining. But at the same time, there's also what you call as social sin. Social sin is participating in structures which dehumanize, which encourages us. A structure is a sinful social structure if it encourages us to be selfish, to be greedy, and to be evil. And they could all be present, no, in our major structures in the community or in the world or in our society. Pwedeng in our political participation, sa pinipili nating mga leaders for this coming election. It could also be present in our economic structures, our way of doing business, of our consumption and production, but it could also be present in our culture, in our meaning-making, in our customs, and in our practices. So tignan, no, yung galawan ng kasalanan. And Father Pedro Arrupe is telling us that with our skill of reading the signs of the times in light of the gospel would help us to pinpoint the areas, the corners, the crevices as to where these sinful structures, sinful social structures are actually emerging and thriving. Alam natin na may home insecurity, no, housing insecurity, and that's something very dehumanizing. And so, like say for example, Joy Nostalg is going there to address that particular concern of housing insecurity, of homelessness. And so that is a manifestation of reading the signs of the times and knowing that this is not good. Homelessness is not good. We have the right to adequate housing. We have the right for basic necessities. And so we're going there because we recognize that it must be addressed. Next is the attitudes for promoting change. At mabilis lang to, no, because I know you've been taught, you had a lot of sessions already regarding actually these reminders. Una, to live more simply. I remember, I think you have one session about simplicity, right? So I don't need to expound on this one. It's a firm resolve to give a much simpler tone to your ways of living, to your individual, family, social, and collective lives, by refusing to take part in a spiral of luxurious ways of living. Okay, so tignan na lang natin yung consumption practices natin, yung buying practices natin, no? And the different products that we patronize. The like, no unjust profit. This is a firm determination to draw no profit whatever from clearly unjust sources. No? And this is very particular to business and corporations, no? No to unjust profit. And to change unjust structures. It's not enough that we talk about justice without doing some reforms, no? And helping out those institutions who are working to change the structures in our society, to collaborate with our government, no, to change the system of, say for example, housing, right? So collaboration at pagpapakonsensya sa mga ahensya natin, no, na dapat tulungan yung mga maralita, no? And lastly, being persons for and with others. And this is something I would really like to emphasize. This is very close to my heart. It's talking about recognizing the potential and the capacity of the poor for their own empowerment, liberation, and upliftment. The poor are not objects of our charity. Hindi sila object ng awa natin. They are subjects to their own liberation. May kakayahan sila na baguhin yung pamumuhay nila. But what is our role? The role of those who are in privileged positions are collaborators. No, we collaborate with them. And the church is very much emphasizing on being a church with the poor, to be in solidarity with the poor. And even, I really like this term, preferential reliance on the poor in evangelization. Oftentimes, we think that the poor has so much to learn from us, that we are a wellspring of knowledge and expertise. But from my experience, no, with bringing my students to immersion activities, they realize that they have so much to learn from the poor. And the poor could actually help us to question the status quo. By their experience, will realize that something is not really right with our system. Bakit? Yung isang magsasaka na striving so hard to work and to produce food for us ay numero unong hindi nakakakain. And that's something very disturbing. Those who provide food on our tables are deeply struggling to provide on their own. And so, by our engagement of encountering them, we will be moved to question our system. This is not right anymore. Yeah. And so, what is truly human has been showing itself to me where I once would have least expected in the faces of the poor. In order to comprehend our human essence, it is necessary to do so from the point of view not of the powerful, but of the poor. That's why Jesus' ministry was mostly concentrated on the poor people. And in fact, there are many gospel passages in which Christ himself learned so much from the poor. And I think that's an invitation for all of us to draw near, to encounter our kapwa, and to learn with them. And so, I end my reflection with you with these two invitations and three tasks. First, to listen and read the signs of the times. To read and understand the signs in light of the gospel. To nurture a culture, to recognize first and foremost who is our kapwa. And to nurture a culture of encounter and a culture of care with them. And the second invitation is personal conversion and social transformation. To be aware of the dynamics of sin, how it is present within us, in our ways of thinking, in our ways of engaging, and how it is also present in our relationships, in our institutions, and in our practices as a community. And to make certain efforts to change, to live simply, to not patronize unjust structures, and to help out, to collaborate, to change, and to reform the structures. And last but not the least, to recognize and to collaborate with the poor in their liberation, in the work of justice. I think that's it for being men and women for others. I know this is a tall order. This is a reflection. It's a challenge for all of us. But you have already structures of grace present within your families, in your workplace, in the company that would help you move further as being persons for and with others. And so, siguro for reflection later with your group mates, these are the questions. How does my work at Joy Nostalg reflect my calling to be a person for others? How does my work in Joy Nostalg contribute to the transformation of society, particularly in serving the poor and marginalized? How can I contribute also to developing a workplace culture that encourages everyone to be persons for others? How can we make sure that the culture in our workplace is also nurturing a culture of care and encounter? And what steps can I take to deepen my awareness of Christ's presence in the marginalized and to respond with love and justice as persons for and with others?